Brought to you by Virgin Media, a new era of entertainment awaits on Ireland's fastest broadband network.
Released in 1982, Blade Runner is loosely based on Philip K. Dick's novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Ridley Scott's adaptation, which is considerably different to Dick's book, tells the story of a Blade Runner who must terminate 4 replicants who have stolen a ship in space and return to Earth in order to find their creator. Blade Runner has gone on to become one of the most debated and discussed science fiction films of all time, which is in stark contrast to the initial reaction to the film. Most of the reviews were mainly negative. It's by no means a flawless film, but Blade Runner is bursting with so much subtext and themes that it lends itself to repeat viewings. The big theme of Blade Runner is, what is life? It's the same issue asked in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Is Deckard really a replicant? Scott says he is, but Harrison Ford totally refutes that. Will we find out in Blade Runner 2049? Joining me now is BBC film critic James King. First off, James, are you a fan of Ridley Scott's dystopian steampunk noir?
I mean, who isn't a fan of dystopian steampunk noir, really?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
It would be a bit of a waste of time if I said I wasn't, wouldn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's such an influential movie. And there are 2 levels going on, really, because the story itself is very interesting, i.e. what goes on in the movie. But also the story around the film has kept up interest in it, and the fact that there are different versions, the fact that Ridley Scott and Harrison Ford famously didn't get on very well when they were making it in the early 80s. So that's kind of kept the myth of Blade Runner going. But I think on a very basic level, it's just the way it looks. I mean, it's jaw-dropping.
It is absolutely jaw-dropping, but what's the impact been on audiences and also on filmmakers as well?
Well, I think on audiences, it's a bit of a slow burner, actually. It's a film, when it came out in 1982, that did okay, but underperformed, really. If you compare it to Indiana Jones and Star Wars that Harrison Ford had come from, very much so, it underperformed compared to them. And it took time for it to build up a following. It was a real cult movie, you know, when cult movies were all about being flops, and then over the years people discovered them. And it was really in 1992, so 10 years after the original, when the director's cut came out and Ridley Scott said, actually, you know, forget that first version. I didn't like that. Harrison Ford didn't like that. This is the proper version. That's when a lot more people saw it.
What's the legacy of Blade Runner, though? What do you think it is?
Well, I think it brings a sort of enigmatic quality to science fiction. Okay. And you mentioned steampunk as well. I mean, it has that visual to it, that the future isn't all perfect and shiny and lovely. Sometimes the future can be horrible, and that's kind of what we see in Blade Runner and have seen many times since in movies. But yeah, I think, you know, when I watch it, I don't entirely get it, and I've seen it on numerous occasions, but there's something so enigmatic about this film. You can't ever quite grasp it and say you entirely understand it. And I think bringing that sort of intellectual depth to a science fiction movie, that's what's so important about it.
Now, of course, we've got the new version, 2049. Yeah. Are you excited about this coming out?
Yeah, because Denis Villeneuve, who's the director, does that. You know, he brings enigmatic quality to his own science fiction films, like Arrival from last year.
Absolutely, but the visual effects alone in Blade Runner is going to blow people away.
Visual effects will be great. I think it will have the brains that the first one had. You know, so it's an intriguing combination. And actually, Ryan Gosling is a good bit of casting, isn't he?
That?
Yeah, it's a good bit of casting, because Harrison, certainly in the first movie, he's like some old detective from an old film noir, sort of a Humphrey Bogart type character. Moody, grumbly, doesn't really say too much. Certainly not some kind of new modern metrosexual kind of man. And I think Ryan Gosling can do that too. He can also be mean and moody.
We have to go.
I'm coming with you.
Where is he?
Brought to you by Virgin Media.